When we talk about raising our children, the conversation usually begins with techniques, strategies, rules, and consequences. We ask, how can I get my child to pray? How can I stop my child from lying? How can I make them listen, obey, and grow into righteous adults? But very rarely do we begin with the deeper, more uncomfortable question, what kind of person am I in front of them? The truth is, raising children does not begin with their behavior, it begins with yours. It doesn't start with their shortcomings, it starts with your character, your voice, your presence in the home, and most of all, your relationship with Allah. You cannot give what you don't have. If your own heart is distant from its Lord, if your own life is full of contradiction, then how will you expect your children to find clarity and faith under your care? Children are not only observers, they are absorbers. They absorb the energy of the home, the emotions in your tone, the habits in your daily life, and the contradictions between what you say and what you live. When you tell your child to pray, but they've never seen your face soften in sujood, what will they learn? When you tell your daughter to cover, but she sees your eyes wander in the presence of temptation, what will she believe? When you ask them to lower their gaze, but your screen habits say otherwise, what lesson are you really teaching? This is not about guilt or perfection. No parent is perfect, but the starting point is not control, it is self-purification. Tazkiyah. You must raise yourself before you raise them. Ask yourself, have I purified my heart from arrogance, envy, anger, laziness? Am I working on my soul, repenting regularly, striving for sincerity? Or am I relying on religious appearances while leaving the roots of my character unexamined? If your home is full of anxiety, shouting, and harshness, do not be surprised when your child becomes closed, distant, or angry. If your home lacks mercy, if your children fear you more than they respect you, if they hide their mistakes instead of confessing them, then what you've raised is not righteousness, but silence. A home without emotional safety will raise children who either rebel loudly or suffer quietly. Both are forms of pain, both are signs that something was missing. Start with your tone. Your tone is often more powerful than your words. If your voice constantly carries criticism, sarcasm, or disappointment, your child will internalize those emotions, not just about themselves, but about Allah. You may not realize it, but to a child, the father and the mother are the first representation of authority, of love, of justice. If your love is conditional, if your discipline is unstable, if your words are violent, your child may grow up believing that Allah is like that too. That His mercy depends on perfection, that His justice is unpredictable, that faith is a performance rather than a relationship. What a tragic misunderstanding to implant in an innocent soul. But when a child sees a parent cry before Allah in dua, when they hear them say, I was wrong, or I'm sorry with sincerity, when they see gentleness in correction and firmness in value, without cruelty, that child learns what it means to be human and striving. They learn that faith is not about pretending to be perfect, but returning to Allah after every fall. That kind of education does not come from lectures, it comes from the living example of a heart that remembers Allah. You might say, but I'm just trying to do my best. I wasn't taught this myself. And that's okay. You are not doomed by your past, but you are responsible for your present. You cannot raise your children on the traumas you have not healed. If you were raised with shouting, with shame, with coldness, and you continue that pattern without reflection, then you are repeating what hurt you in the name of what's familiar. Break the cycle. Begin again. Even if it's one quiet step at a time. Your children do not need perfection, but they need to see growth. They need to see that their parent is trying, that you care enough to work on your anger, your prayer, your patience, your habits. This is why the scholars always emphasize the role of the parent's iman, not just their outward religiosity, but their inner state. Do you rely on Allah when you are stressed? Do you talk about the Akhirah with hope? Do you read Qur'an not only to complete it, but to reflect upon it? Do you thank Allah in ease and turn to Him in hardship? When your child sees this in you, they don't just learn Islam, they feel it. They witness what it looks like to live as a believer. That kind of faith is contagious. It seeps into the walls of the home, it settles in their heart like a seed, ready to bloom when the time is right. So before you ask, why isn't my child listening? Ask, am I listening to Allah? Before you say, my child has no focus in prayer, ask, do I rush mine? Before you fear the friends they're choosing, ask, have I become their friend in the home? Children are not meant to be molded by force, they are meant to be guided by love, truth and consistency. And none of those things are possible if the parent does not begin with themselves. Muharram is the beginning of the Islamic year, a time for renewal, a chance to start again. What better moment to commit to this path of inner refinement? You can still be the parent you never had. You can still change the atmosphere of your home. You can still raise righteous children by becoming righteous yourself, not perfectly but humbly, not instantly but sincerely. So don't focus only on your child's behavior, focus on the environment in which that behavior is growing. Is your home filled with dhikr or only noise? Do your children see love between the parents or only tension? Do they feel secure enough to make mistakes and ask for help, or do they live in fear of your reaction? These are not small things. These are the soil in which their future is growing. Raising children is not just about teaching them who they are, it's about showing them who you are becoming. Let them see that the path to Allah is one of mercy, of effort, and of return. And by Allah's will they will follow that light, not because they were told to, but because they saw it glowing in you. Children are not born knowing what love is. They learn it from what they see, what they feel, and what is modeled in front of them, day after day. Before they ever hear the words "I love you," they understand love from the way they are spoken to when they cry, from the way they are held when they fall, and from the way their parents treat each other when no one is watching. If we want our children to recognize sincere love when it comes to them in the future, to avoid harmful relationships, to know when they are being valued, to flee from anything that dishonors their worth, then we must show them what real love looks like now, in the atmosphere of our homes. This means, above all else, that we must embody love rooted in dignity and responsibility. It's not enough to kiss your child on the forehead, or buy them gifts. Love is also in the way you speak to their mother, in the way you respect your husband, in the patience you show when no one is applauding. If your child sees coldness, sarcasm, distance, or violence between parents, then they will begin to associate love with fear, or power, or manipulation. They may think love means yelling followed by silence, or that it means putting up with disrespect in the name of patience. They may grow up tolerating mistreatment because that is what they learned love to look like. On the other hand, when a child sees gentleness, kindness, and mercy in the way their parents interact, even during disagreement, they begin to understand that love is not loud, unstable, or dramatic. It is patient, it is firm when necessary, soft when possible. It is full of trust and mutual respect. A child who sees their father lower his gaze, who hears him praise their mother in her absence, who watches him apologize when he is wrong, grows up knowing that strength and tenderness can coexist. A child who sees their mother refrain from gossip, who hears her speak of her husband with grace, and who watches her balance care with discipline, understands that respect is not weakness. It is power under control. This modeling extends beyond the marriage. It includes the way siblings speak to each other, the way parents talk about others behind their backs. If your child sees that love means loyalty, then they will not be easily fooled by empty words from someone outside who flatters but does not commit. If they see that love requires sacrifice and boundaries, they will not accept superficial affection that asks them to compromise their values. They will learn the difference between desire and care, between charm and character. And just as importantly, they will learn how to love themselves. If they grow up in a home where their worth is conditional, based on grades, looks, or obedience, they may develop the belief that they must earn love, that love is always at risk. But if they grow up in a home where mistakes are corrected with mercy, where emotions are not shamed, and where hugs are given without being deserved, then they learn that they are lovable simply by existing. That kind of security will become their protection later in life, when the world offers them distorted versions of love. They will recognize what is false because they have seen what is true. This is also why your own love for Allah is crucial, because children are deeply perceptive. They notice what brings you peace and what doesn't. If they see that you light up when you speak of the Prophet ﷺ, if they see that you turn to prayer in hardship, that you give in charity secretly, that you forgive others not because it's easy but because it pleases Allah, then they begin to understand that love is not always about emotion. Sometimes love is a decision, a commitment, a path that costs something. And most of all, they learn that the greatest love is the one that connects you to the one who never betrays or forgets. But this takes intentionality. Love does not grow in chaos. It grows in stillness, in presence. You cannot teach your child what sincere love looks like if your eyes are always on a screen. If you are always rushing, always angry, always too tired to engage. They need your full attention. They need to feel that their stories, their questions, and their little moments matter to you. Because to a child, love is spelled T-I-M-E. You may think your lectures are enough, but your presence will teach them more than your words ever can. So ask yourself, what kind of love are my children learning in this home? Are they seeing affection that respects boundaries? Are they hearing words that heal rather than hurt? Are they witnessing forgiveness that doesn't require humiliation? And just as importantly, are they learning how to set boundaries when they are not being treated with love? We live in a world where love is sold in music, movies, and media as something purely emotional, full of pleasure but empty of responsibility. If we do not teach our children otherwise, they will be drawn to what the world shows them, not because they are sinful but because they are searching. And if they do not see it at home, they may settle for a cheap imitation. They may accept being used in the name of being chosen. They may call pain passion and abuse attention. But if we have done our work as parents, if we have modeled love that is protective, gentle, faithful, and dignified, then we give them a reference point, a compass, something to compare every offer of love against, something to say, no, this isn't right. I know what true care looks like. I've seen it in my home. None of this is to say that we must be flawless. We will lose our temper. We will argue, we will fail, but what matters is that we return, that we apologize in front of our children when we wrong each other, that we make up not just in private but in view, that our children see that love survives imperfection, that it grows through effort, and that it is possible to repair what is broken. This too is part of their learning. So if you want your child to choose wisely in love, to protect their dignity, to avoid heartbreak, then begin now. Show them what love means in your marriage, in your discipline, in your speech. Show them that love does not shame, does not manipulate, does not rush. Show them that love honors, that it gives, that it fears Allah, and by His mercy, they will grow into people who not only recognize real love, but who give it, and receive it, in ways that elevate their souls and please their Lord. Children grow up in a world that bombards them with confusing messages about attraction, what it looks like, what it feels like, and what it should lead to. From media, peers, and even educational environments, they're told that attraction is about appearance, about charm, about status, about being desired by others. But rarely are they taught to look deeper, to see that real attraction is not about butterflies in the stomach, but about the presence of qualities that are rooted in sincerity, respect, and consistent care. If we want our children to navigate the complex world of relationships with clarity and dignity, then we must teach them what true attraction really is. We must give them the signs, the framework, and the spiritual lens to recognize the difference between someone who is simply drawn to them and someone who actually values them. Attraction, in its most meaningful form, is not just a reaction of the heart or body. It is a recognition of goodness in another. And that recognition cannot be based on surface traits alone. A beautiful face may catch your attention, but a beautiful character will capture your heart in a way that lasts. So the first thing we must teach our children is this: look for values, not just feelings. Do not measure someone's interest in you by how much they flatter you. Measure it by how much they respect your boundaries. Do not be fooled by how often someone wants to be around you. Look at what they do when you're not available, when you say no, when you speak about your principles. If someone is attracted to you but tries to pull you away from your values, then they are not drawn to your essence. They are attracted to what they think they can take from you. There are signs, real signs that someone's attraction is pure and grounded. One of the most important is intention. If a person is sincere in their attraction to you, they will clarify their intentions. They will not play with your time, your heart, or your emotions. They will not send mixed messages, or give you attention in private while hiding you in public. They will make their interest known in a respectful way, seeking the appropriate steps that protect both of your dignity. That could mean involving families, seeking advice from elders, or honoring the process of nikah, rather than delaying it for selfish reasons. This doesn't mean rushing into marriage, but it does mean avoiding the trap of vague, undefined relationships that lead nowhere. When someone is truly attracted to you in a way that honors Allah, they will want to preserve your value, not consume it. Another sign is consistency. Words are cheap, especially today. A person might say all the right things, how much they care, how special you are, how different you are from others. But what do their actions say over time? Do they check in only when it's convenient for them? Do they disappear when you have needs, or when you hold them accountable? Are they kind one day and cold the next? True attraction shows up in consistency, not in intensity that fades after a few weeks, but in the steady, quiet presence of someone who sees you not as a temporary thrill, but as someone worthy of time, effort, and patience. Teach your children to observe patterns, not promises. Real care is proven over time. A third sign is respect. If someone is attracted to you, they will not ask you to lower your standards. They will not pressure you to dress differently, act differently, or compromise your limits. In fact, they will admire your strength, your commitment to your values, your relationship with Allah. Real attraction in a believer is not selfish. It is humble. It makes room for you to grow. It encourages you to be better. And most of all, it does not rush what Allah has made sacred. Teach your children that if someone truly respects them, they will never ask them to disobey Allah in the name of love. That's not love. That's manipulation dressed in emotion. The fourth and perhaps most overlooked sign is the presence of care without demand. Someone who is attracted to you for the right reasons will care for your well-being, even when there is no guarantee of gain. They will make dua for you. They will wish you well even if you're not meant for each other. They will want good for you because they see your worth as a person, not just as a potential partner. This level of care is rare, but it is real. And when a person exhibits this kind of integrity, it reveals that their heart is sincere, not seeking to own, but to honor. We must teach our children to recognize these signs, not just with their minds but with their hearts trained by taqwa. When they learn to see through the lens of faith, they will be less likely to fall for superficial attraction, and more likely to seek what is truly beneficial for their soul. And to do that they need examples. Show them stories of the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, how they loved, how they married, how they treated one another with immense mercy and respect. Let them see that our tradition is not devoid of romance. It is full of it, but it is guided by clarity, not chaos. We must also help our children trust their intuition. If something feels off, if they feel rushed, disrespected, confused, that's worth listening to. Attraction should not bring torment. It should bring clarity, safety, and peace. Yes, there may be nerves, uncertainty, and the natural excitement of newness, but underneath it all there should be a sense of security and purpose. If the connection is only built on flattery, jokes, or desire, it will fade. But if it's built on shared values, mutual growth, and a desire to please Allah, then it will strengthen over time, even in hardship. And finally, we must remind them that they too must embody the signs they seek in others. If they want someone sincere, they must be sincere. If they want someone respectful, they must practice respect. Attraction is not just something that happens to you, it's something you cultivate through your own choices. The kind of heart you develop will determine the kind of heart you attract. Help your children see that working on themselves, strengthening their connection with Allah, building their character, and living with purpose will naturally lead them toward people who reflect the same qualities. This is how we prepare them, not by hiding them from the world, but by equipping them with the vision to walk through it with strength. Teach them what real attraction looks like, not as the world defines it, but as Allah honors it. And by His mercy they will walk the path of love without losing themselves. One of the most important lessons we can pass down to our children is that real love does not hide. It does not shy away from truth. It does not rely on confusion, secrets, or emotional games. Real love brings clarity. And one of the clearest signs that someone truly sees you and values you is that they are willing to make their feelings known in an honorable and direct way. In a world filled with mixed signals, ghosting, and vague intentions, this type of clarity is not only refreshing, it's sacred. We must teach our children that if someone is serious about them, they will make that seriousness visible. They will not play with emotions. They will not hover silently, offering attention without responsibility. They will step forward with intention and purpose. Children grow up watching how adults handle relationships, and when they repeatedly see relationships built on secrecy, social media flirting, and emotional inconsistency, they internalize the idea that being liked or loved is supposed to be complicated. That if someone really feels something for you, they'll drop hints, make you guess, or act hot and cold, until you're left in a state of confusion. But we must unteach this distorted script. We must guide them back to the truth, that someone who is genuinely attracted to you will not leave you uncertain. Their presence will not be a storm that leaves you disoriented. It will be a shelter that gives you peace. That clarity begins with communication. When someone is truly drawn to your child, and honors that attraction in a respectful way, they will express their interest clearly, not with manipulation, not with flirtation, not with empty words, but with a conversation that reflects maturity and integrity. They will ask about what matters to your child. They will show interest in their values, their goals, and the things that make up the foundation of their character. They will want to learn,
to understand, and to support, not to possess. Clarity is not about overpromising. It's about aligning your words with your actions, and being consistent in both. Teach your children that if someone claims to be attracted to them, but is never willing to be clear about where they stand or what they want, that's not respect. That's fear or selfishness, dressed up as affection. Real care doesn't fear being known, and it certainly doesn't hide behind the excuse of "I'm not ready to commit, but I still want you around." That's not love, that's consumption. And we do not allow our children to be consumed in the name of affection. A person with serious intent does not only speak about their interest, they take steps toward it. That might mean asking to involve the family. That might mean requesting to speak to a guardian. That might mean taking the time to learn about the Islamic guidelines for marriage, companionship, and how to do things in a way that brings barakah, not regret. If someone is serious about your child, they will not be afraid to follow the right process. And if the person is afraid of that process, if they delay, make excuses or laugh it off, then their attraction is not strong enough to sustain what matters. And even more than what someone says, watch how they act in moments of challenge. Does their commitment to your child disappear when boundaries are reinforced? Do they still show kindness and concern, even when they are told no to something they want? This is what separates someone who is simply infatuated from someone who is genuinely committed. Because real clarity comes not only in easy moments, but in hard ones. If a person can maintain honor, respect, and gentleness even when things are difficult, then that reveals the depth of their sincerity. We also must teach our children that someone who is truly interested will not want to keep them a secret. They will not fear accountability. They will not fear being known by family or elders or trusted friends. On the contrary, they will welcome transparency, because transparency is a sign that there is nothing to hide. If a relationship must remain in the shadows, if the interaction is something your child would be ashamed to speak about in front of their parents, or teacher, or community, then that's not clarity, it's compromise. That's why it's so essential to build in our children the strength to ask questions, to say, "Where is this going?" or "What do you want out of this?" without shame or hesitation. And just as important, to walk away if the answers are not satisfying. We must show them that their worth is not tied to being chosen by someone who cannot be clear about their intentions. That it is better to wait in peace than to remain in confusion with someone who is unsure about them. Waiting for the right person is not a failure. Lowering yourself to be accepted by someone who cannot commit is. We must give our children the courage to believe that clarity is not too much to ask for. That they don't have to beg for honesty, consistency, or serious interest. That they can expect those things and still be humble. That they can be kind and still have strong standards. That they can love someone and still walk away if the relationship lacks taqwa, direction, or seriousness. Teach them also that the right kind of clarity will not feel forced. When someone truly values your child, their steps will be sincere and timely, not rushed, not delayed. There will be wisdom, balance, and alignment. And most of all, there will be dua. Someone who is attracted to your child and has a heart rooted in sincerity will be making dua for guidance, for goodness, and for ease. They will be asking Allah to either bring the relationship together in halal, or to move it away, if it's not meant to be. That's clarity at the spiritual level, not just words and actions, but trust in Allah's plan. So remind your child that being chosen by someone who brings confusion is not a sign of love, and that being passed over by someone who couldn't see their worth is not a loss. Clarity is a form of mercy. It protects them from wasting time, from being strung along, and from giving their heart to someone who isn't ready to care for it. Help them walk away from uncertainty with dignity. Help them seek what's real with patience. And most of all, help them build themselves so well that when clarity comes they are ready for it. Not just emotionally, but spiritually, intellectually, and with a heart that knows its worth and never forgets who it belongs to.